Welcome to East Tennessee Pinball. Got in this Indiana Jones yesterday. Just kind of taking a look at it. Had all kinds of funny problems. The display wasn't working, so I pulled the display out, put in had a scrap one in the back. Had a few lines out, but I can at least read it. The game does boot up, exhibiting all kinds of weird behavior. Basically, even without the game started, it would start kicking out balls and just recycling. And, the solenoids were firing. Some of the lights were working and making sounds, but it would just keep circulating the balls, all 5 or 6, however many it's got, just shoot them up the top and they'd fall through. Flippers weren't working, but most of the other solenoids were working. Kind of crazy. So anyway, I got to looking at the power supply / solenoid driver board, and there's 2 voltages missing. One driven by the 12 volt unregulated, driven by this bridge rectifier, and smoothed by this cap. It's that TP1 right there, and put a question mark on there because when I measured on TP1, I was measuring 9.6 volts DC and 5 volts AC. So immediately I was kind of like suspecting this cap was bad or something, but it's a replaced cap. So this game came from another person was working on it for various reasons. He couldn't continue. So anyway, I got this game kind of in a state of disarray. It's kind of somewhat taken apart. Some of the parts are disassembled. So anyway, this has been replaced. Turns out that bridge rectifier using the diode test, that was good. I flipped this board over. Those are the 2 solder points. I haven't cleaned the flux off yet. But if you look closely, there's no pad on the back of this board. So this was originally a snap-in, and basically it was soldered, but it wasn't soldered through the board because the pad is on the other side. So you have to get the solder pretty hot and leave your iron on there for a significant amount of time for that solder to flow down the via to the other side of the board and attach to the other side of the board on both of these. It looks kind of ugly on this side, but that's actually not the side that counts. What counts is essentially underneath there where you can't even see it. And it's got to be connected. So after you're done, you got to really make sure you've got continuity between this and some other point on the board, that like maybe that one there, where they're connected. I've done that, so it is connected now, and it was not before, and that was the problem. So that fixed that 12 volt unregulated. The reason that 12 volt unregulated is so important is that feeds the opto sensors, and all the opto sensors were not. They were getting 9 volts DC on top of a 5 volt AC circuit, so they were freaking out. They were closing and opening. They didn't know what they were doing, so it was just constantly kicking out balls. So the other thing is the 20 volts. The TP7 here, the 20 volts which is for the flashers. I'm not getting 20 volts there. I haven't got that fixed yet. I did replace that bridge rectifier. Don't think that's fixed yet. It also goes through this cap. That cap's been. I'm basically tracing through what this other tech has been going through. He replaced this cap, I replaced this bridge rectifier. I actually haven't plugged it back in since I've replaced that bridge rectifier. So this one, I may have the 20 volts here. I know I got the 12 volts over here. So that's where I'm at with this thing. Like I say, it's kind of a state of disarray. Been a lot of diagnosing, the wires cut and taped. But going through it, it's going to be a little bit of a project here, but it'll be fun. Adios. So I got the board back in the game, and that little LED right there is telling me that I've got the 20 volts, and I confirmed it. I measured the multimeter. I've got the 20 volts right there. I will tell you that after putting that in there, I did not have continuity between that little solder pad I put there and the back side of the board. So there's the 2 pins on this, and the upper one here has a pad only on the back side of the board, and the bottom pin has one on the bottom and the top of the board. But you can only solder from the back. But basically that via was burnt and it wasn't transmitting. So I had to put it's called a stitch, basically a piece of wire that's looped from the top of it, that's soldered on that top trace in through the board, and then soldered back on the bottom trace. And that got it to work. So that's fixed. So all the flashers are working. Got the 12 volts are working, so all the switches are working. Or at least most of them. I haven't checked every one, but most of the optos are working. Before, none of them working. So if any of them are not working, it's probably just a bad opto sensor or something, or maybe they're all working. Who knows? We'll find out. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you like it, click the like button, and if you want to subscribe, click subscribe. Adios. Bye.